Well, hi everyone, this is Jeff Hopper coming to you for Links Players from our Links Player studio in La Quinta, California, where we like to share with you some of the topics that are on our minds and hopefully add to your understanding of some of the things that are coming to you through the devotional. And I have been blessed myself by some of the things that our president Jeffrey Cranford has done and some of the conversations that he's had with those in the studio. And so I hope that what we're going to talk about today is also of great impact to you. It's time to go back to school. It's that time of year. I will be taking my youngest son off to college very shortly here, and I know some of the kids in our area are already in school. Where you live, it may be still a few days away before your children or your grandchildren go back to school. But it is one of those times of the year, and there are really a couple of times like this, where people reset their thinking. For school kids, for school teachers, for principals and administrators, for professors at the collegiate level, that time of year is now. And they will often set for themselves themes for the year, focuses, practices that they're going to do that might be new and fresh and make this year different from years in the past. Certainly I know that's the thinking of coaches a lot of times. As we move towards, say, the college football season, coaches come in, and especially new coaches with new programs. They're infusing a newness, a freshness into what's going on. That happens for a lot of the rest of us, say, on January 1. We commit ourselves to new programs, new plans, what we call resolutions, maybe new goals at the business level. We sit down together and say, what are we going to do this year? Well, I would like to suggest to you that that is a very valuable thing as well for followers of Jesus, that we look for times of refreshing, sometimes just praying, Lord, bring a refreshing to my life, bring a refreshing to my ministry that you've given to me, whatever it is, that kind of refreshing. And other times we're also intentional about it in our study, in our plans. We lay out a theme for the year, a design for the year. One of our devotional writers, founder of Links Players, Jim Hiskey, has made a practice in recent years of choosing a theme to write his devotions, and he writes one a month, to write on that theme all year long. This year it happens to be true greatness. What does the Bible say about being truly great? And he appeals to the many teachings of Scripture about humility. And I certainly agree with Jim on this matter, because I find in Scripture that God does play favorites. He favors the humble. And if we are going to be great, we're going to be the servant of all, we're going to be humble people, just as Jesus was humble himself. And so it pays to emphasize humility, for instance, in a year ahead, and look at those things and study on those things and pray to the Lord to make you a more humble person, or some other specific trait or emphasis in your life. I know when I was going to Bible college, there was always a week each year that was set aside. Even though we went to chapel almost every day, there was a week set aside as Spiritual Emphasis Week, where we really tried to push some of the other distractions out. It's what Jesus often did when he would go to the hills, separate from his disciples, separate from his family, and get time alone with the Lord, a refreshing. And that can be a daily thing, but it can also be an overarching thing, like a theme. God set up for the ancient Jewish people these festivals or feasts that would happen periodically through the years. One of my favorites among those is the Feast of Tabernacles, or Feast of Booths. And what he encouraged the people to do at that time, what he asked of them, was that they would move out of their homes that they had for themselves in Israel, and they would move instead into tents, temporary dwellings, for 1 week. And they would live in these temporary dwellings. And boy, if I were a young Jewish kid, what a cool week that must be. I get to go camp outside my house in the backyard or in the street with my friends and my family and spend some special time. Well, why did God do that? He wanted the people to remember a specific time in their history, a time when they were tent people wandering from Egypt to the promised land, completely dependent on the Lord for their provision, their daily provision of manna and quail. And how did those things come to them? Because they were dependent on the Lord. And what happens often is we go through our regular life without a special emphasis is we fall into a rote pattern, a routine that sucks the life out of what is meant to be inside of us. And so when we take time in a festival sort of way, we do obviously our daily quiet time, we do maybe a weekend set apart, a retreat, we go to a sacred assembly, as Scripture sometimes calls it, where people are gathered for a specific purpose, or where we thread a theme through an entire year, like Jim Hiskey has done, or like a teacher might do, or a coach. We have the possibility of gaining greatly in our spiritual life in an area where we're weak. And so we look at things and we say, Lord, let me assess the time ahead, this number of months or this coming year. Let me assess this with you. Where do I need to grow? And then as he makes that theme clear to us and we seize that theme in our lives and we go forward studying on that, praying on that, practicing things that make us more like Christ as we adhere to the theme ahead. So I encourage you, as you read the devotion today and consider this particular video and some of the other thoughts that might be going through your head on this matter, to find a point of emphasis and really adhere to it in the time of ahead as a spiritual discipline in your life.